All right, Jesse on Fire, welcome back to the channel. I'm coming out of the fog. I've been sick this last week. That's why I haven't been posting videos, but I'm feeling better now. Feeling a lot better. We're going to talk about Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman fight, how this happened, and how Daniel Cormier probably nuked the Khamzat Chimaev and Leon Edwards fight.
Don't even entertain this. Let them talk as much as they want. Let them yap at you. Let them call you scared. Let them throw insults. It does not matter. You will be the guy walking to the octagon in a main event against the champion Kamaru Usman next if you wait.
But there's a lot to go over. I'm also going to talk about who Michael Chandler should fight next because, believe it or not, this whole thing that happened with Leon Edwards connects directly to that. And Michael and I were talking on Instagram about the Conor McGregor fight. He wants that Conor fight. He wants it bad. And I basically laid out what I believe is that I think they will fight next year, just after they both win their next fight, right? Like the UFC, exactly what I said to you guys in the videos. Chandler, enormous star. Conor, enormous star. Both in their prime, both super dangerous. Now, how huge is that fight when they're both coming off a victory? Enormous. How big is it if they're both coming off 2 losses? It's still big, but if one of them loses, it's very scary for the UFC, especially Conor, right? So here's the deal. Anyway, but I'll talk about that because I'll tell you who I think Chandler should fight, but it does play directly into this story with Leon Edwards because there are just certain hard and fast truths that you need to understand when you're trying to predict who's going to fight who, okay? So if you like the content, subscribe and ring the bell. I still don't feel very good, but I'm doing this video because I need to do videos. I've been slacking because I've been laying on the couch all day for the last 3 days, sick. So here it is. Okay, so when Leon Edwards, when this first happened, right, when Masvidal first got pulled off 269, I got hit up by everybody on earth because I had done the video 2 days before saying the UFC is going to pull him off that card, right? And my initial reaction to that was this, right? So my boy who runs the Accent podcast hit me up and he was like, holy shit, you were right. They pulled Masvidal off. And I said, I told you. And then I said, Leon's going to get a title shot straight up. That was my initial reaction. And then he was like, oh, I thought they'd give him Khamzat Chimaev. And when I let that marinate for a while, I was like, oh, for sure they're going to try to do that fight. 100% they're going to try to do that fight. And, you know that they tried to do that fight because they didn't immediately announce Leon Edwards will get a title shot, right? Like you had, at least a week in between when they announced Masvidal's off and when they announced Leon's going to fight for the title next, right? And you had Khamzat Chimaev begging for that fight. And then a few days later, they're all, well, here, Khamzat, we're going to give you to Burns. Leon, you're going to fight for the title. So there was a gap there, right? And in between those couple incidents, Daniel Cormier came out and did a video where he was like, don't take the bait. Leon, don't take the bait. Don't fight Khamzat Chimaev. And I haven't reviewed that video extensively, but I do remember in a nutshell what his points were. And I will just say that what my point, if your entire incentive structure for the Leon side is he wants to fight for the title, then yeah, that's a no-brainer. What possible reason would you have to fight Khamzat Chimaev, right? The only reason that you would fight him is if they incentivized you financially so much that you're like, okay, it's, I want to fight for the title. Okay, well, how much do you want to fight for the title? Well, what do you mean? Well, we'll pay you $6 million to fight Khamzat Chimaev. $6 million? $6 million. Nah, I want the title. How about $8 million? No, I want the title shot. How about 12? Okay. There's a number anyone's going to take. There's always a number. But, and DC didn't even talk about that, right? Like he's just talking about don't get baited into taking this Khamzat fight. Because here's the thing, Leon Edwards already took the Khamzat fight, right? He already took it and then Khamzat got sick, right? So that's one thing. And then he took the Khamzat fight again. And I'll tell you exactly what I mean. When he fought Nate Diaz, that is the Khamzat fight, okay? Leon Edwards, super high ranking, not marketable at the time, right? I do think his marketability has gone up exponentially now. And only because they've talked about him so much, about how many times he's won in a row. I don't think the regular everyday fan is likely to get super hyped on the fight, but hardcores like me and you, I am hyped to watch Leon Edwards fight Kamaru Usman. Really hyped, especially given that Kamaru Usman keeps winning and so does Leon, right? Like both these guys have won an enormous number of fights in a row. I think Leon's won 8 in a row, 9 in a row or something like that. Like I'm excited to watch him fight Kamaru. Let's see if Kamaru can beat him. It's obviously. But the way that the UFC makes fights is they try to make title fights between a very marketable challenger and the champion. That's what they try to do. And so if the guy who's in line for a title shot is not marketable, that's why Leon had to fight so many times in a row to get to the position where now he's going to get a title shot. It's his marketability, man. You know, Michael Chandler, to the point that I've been making about Michael Chandler being so marketable. Dude, he fought one time and then got a title shot, okay? One time. Now, obviously, there was a factor in there that Dustin went and fought Conor because Dustin would have been fighting for the title, but still, one fight, title shot. Marketability is your best friend in this sport, right? And so, with the Leon Edwards situation, if your only incentive is to get to the belt, yes, you don't fight Khamzat Chimaev. The UFC, I guarantee you, offered him that fight, though. Guaranteed, right? Guaranteed. But here's the other thing, right? It's not all downside for the UFC that Leon fights, you know, for the title instead of Khamzat Chimaev. Because here's the thing. If you have Khamzat fight Leon Edwards, right? And then Khamzat beats Leon Edwards, okay? Like, let's just say that that's what happened, right? He fights Leon, he beats him. And then he goes and he fights Kamaru Usman, okay? And let's say Kamaru Usman beats Khamzat Chimaev like he beats everyone else. Who's next? Right? Who's next? Okay? Like, what Kamaru Usman's done to the division, like the level with which he's cleared it out almost, I mean, he's still got a couple guys to beat, but like, he's getting close to GSP level or Anderson Silva. You're like, who the hell are you going to have fight this guy? You know, are you just going to have some guy that's not even close to as good as these other guys he's already beat, just go in there and it's like, you know, living on a prayer, you know, he's just going to like cross our, you know, I mean, we already know he's going to mop this guy unless he just straight up doesn't train. You know, we're going to hope for a Matt Serra over GSP outcome at some point. I mean, do you know what I mean? Like, so you do need a line of challengers when you have a guy as dominant as Kamaru. So like, you have Khamzat Chimaev, who almost certainly will win his next fight and be in line for a title shot. I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's going to fight Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns is a beast. I can't wait to watch that fight too. But yeah, I mean, doing the Leon Edwards and Khamzat fight, you theoretically knock off one of your exciting fights that could be in line to fight Kamaru Usman, right? So I think you had a combination of things. I think you had Daniel Cormier probably throw a wrench in that, where Leon Edwards was like, well, he's right. If Daniel Cormier, you know, double champion, millionaire by a long shot, many times over. The guy's done everything right in his career and business. Is telling me don't take the fight. I probably shouldn't take the fucking fight, you know? And then if you've got, you know, and then you got the UFC looking at it like, I mean, we probably need to have at least a couple fresh guys to fight Kamaru whose asses he hasn't already whipped, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think that's probably what's going on. But also, if Leon refused to take the fucking Khamzat fight, you're done, right? He's fighting for the title. It is what it is. And obviously in this situation, the number one priority from the jump was protecting Masvidal, because right now, Colby and Masvidal is a fucking super fight. And it's not if Masvidal loses to Leon. And there's no upside in him winning. He's not going to fight Kamaru. So that's what it is. Now, I alluded to some things back there that now I'm going to just directly outright say, okay? So in the UFC, you have a few different tiers of fighters, okay? I don't think I talked about this yet, right? But you have tier one fighters. These are guys who are super, super marketable and are in their prime, okay? So you're talking guys like Israel Adesanya, Conor McGregor, Nate Diaz, Masvidal, Michael Chandler, Justin Gaethje, Colby Covington. Kamaru Usman now has just beaten his way into tier one for sure. You know, guys like that, right? They're tier one guys. And essentially what that means is these are the guys you're building your entire set of events around, right? Because what dictates who's in tier one is there are some guys that can drive pay-per-views that will actually get people to pay to watch their fights. And there are other guys that no matter how good they are, they don't, okay? Like the fact that this guy's won 5 in a row, no one knows his name, no one's interested, it doesn't matter, okay? So like tier 2 guys, as an example, would be guys like, at least currently, okay? Now, Islam Makhachev, tier 1, 100%, okay? But tier 2 guys right now are guys like Dariush or Dustin Poirier, tier 1 now, right? But like Dariush, tier 2, okay? Killing Machine, everyone knows that, tier 2. Luque, tier 2, Killing Machine. Leon Edwards, tier 2, Killing Machine, right? Rafael Dos Anjos, tier 2, Killing Machine, right? These are great fighters. Everybody knows they're great fighters. But they're tier 2 guys because they will not drive pay-per-views. No one is going to buy a pay-per-view because they are on it, okay? I'm just telling you. I mean, like, the people who are going to buy the pay-per-views that they're on because they're on it are guys who are going to buy every single fucking pay-per-view, right? So the way that the UFC does matchmaking is they are surgical with who their tier 1s fight. Surgical, okay? And if you're ever going to have 2 tier 1 guys fight against each other, it's either going to be for a title or it's going to be a title eliminator. Every time, okay? Every time. Every single time. With very minor exceptions relating to people who have external factors like a Colby and Masvidal beef or Conor McGregor in any capacity, right? Okay, so there has to be something external to break those rules. You use tier 2 guys to elevate tier 1 guys so that you can set up fights between tier 1 guys or title shots. That is what you use these guys for. They are assets. They are not human beings as it relates to how you pick and choose who's going to fight who. Their records don't matter. None of that shit fucking matters. The only thing that matters, the only reason their records matter is you still have to appear to be respecting the belt and a hierarchy that's based on talent and victories. Because if there's no belief in the belt system, that there's any legitimacy behind it based on your wins and losses, then the whole thing falls apart, okay? But outside of, we have to at least make this make sense, okay? You think they wouldn't rather give Khamzat Chimaev an immediate title shot over Leon Edwards? But if they do that, then the whole thing doesn't make sense anymore. You can't jump Leon at this point, okay? So you put tier 2 fighters up against tier 1 fighters and you cross your fingers that the tier 1 fighter wins. Okay, that is what the UFC does. I'm telling you, there is no question that I'm correct about this, okay? And whether or not they have a system where they have actually thought this out, this is what they do and this is why they do it. Because when 2 tier 1 fighters fight each other, that is a big driver of pay-per-views, a big one, okay? A big one. And obviously there are some tier 1 fighters that are bigger stars than other, you know. Conor McGregor is the number 1 tier 1. Masvidal is probably number 2, or, you know, Nate Diaz, whatever. These guys are like the top tier guys. And there are some tier 2 guys that are 1 win away from becoming a tier 1 guy. If they beat the right tier 1 guy, they can be elevated. But you never know who those guys are until it actually happens. You really can't predict it very well, right? Like, you have to have Nate Diaz come in as a replacement fighter, beat Conor McGregor, blood on his face, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers, and boom, he's top tier, right? He goes from a guy who made $40K for his last fight to one of the biggest stars in the UFC. You don't know what the inciting incident is going to be, but when you're doing the fights themselves, you are matchmaking based on the tier system, okay? And thus, Conor and Chandler, okay? You also have to consider people's, you know, maximum upside, right? Like, what's the likelihood they could win the championship? And if they won the championship, how popular could they become? Chandler has no ceiling, okay? Like, he has no ceiling. If Chandler won a sequence of title fights, he would be so fucking popular, it'd be unbelievable. Conor is already at the ceiling, okay? And so, again, that is why there is no way that they would waste that fight with both of them coming off 2 losses, even though both lost. I mean, Conor lost to Dustin Poirier, arguably the best lightweight in the world, and Chandler won a very close decision in one of the best fights of all time and was a hair from beating, you know, Charles Oliveira. We've already talked about this, right? But so where Michael Chandler, in my opinion, is going to end up is he's going to fight either RDA or he's going to fight Dariush, right? Because he obviously is still good enough to you know, contend for the title. But they're not. They don't want. Why would they want to put him up against a tier 1 guy right now when it can't be a title eliminator, right? It can't be a title eliminator right now. So Dariush or RDA is who Chandler should fight, and I would imagine who they'll match him up with, right? Because that's just what it is, right? So yeah, I mean, and so when you think about the Leon Edwards situation, that's what you were looking at. He was a tier 2 fighter, and they were doing whatever they could to elevate a tier 1 fighter to, you know, to jump his spot. But he beat all of them, okay? Like, he beat them all, right? Is he a tier 1 fighter now? No. He's going to fight for a title because he fucking won his way there. Because the overarching thing that beats out all of tier 1 and tier 2 is there has to be some kind of structural integrity to the belt and the hierarchy that gets you to title shots, you know? And Leon is one of the rare guys who fought his way all the way up there, same as Charles Oliveira. And then also, you know, could be fucking retired. But Charles probably would have been next anyway, in all honesty. Actually, well, fuck. If Conor would have beat Dustin, he would have for sure been next. But anyway, that's what I got. So subscribe to the channel, ring the bell. Sorry for the hiatus. I love you guys. Peace. Oh. I'm going to put this at the beginning of the video if I remember. So I have a video that I'm going to plug for Jesse on Everything that is completely nonpartisan. It's about the Rittenhouse trial. And I think that the prosecution is throwing this case on purpose. I'm serious. I think that the prosecution for the Rittenhouse case is very intentionally losing this case on purpose. And I'm going to make a case for that in my video that I'm about to do for Jesse on Everything. And I highly encourage everyone to watch it because A, it's going to be kind of funny, but B, I really will stand by what I'm saying, and I think I can make it make sense for everybody. But anyway, if you like the content, subscribe and ring the bell.